Israel is a tiny country with a tiny population of just over 9 million people. And that tiny country and tiny population is surrounded by a sea of enemies in the crosshairs of every radical group in the neighborhood. And that puts Israel in a bit of a difficult position. After school, every young Israeli man and woman go into the army for 2 or 3 years to stand guard over this nation. But that doesn't make nearly enough of a defense force. The answer? Until well into their 40s, every Israeli serves in reserves, in the reserve force. And then, when Israel goes to war, it's that reserve force that fights on the front lines. Israel doesn't have a professional army. Israel has a civilian army of fathers and husbands and brothers and sons, of lawyers and bus drivers and accountants, and having to drop everything in a moment and dig their uniforms from the back of the closet, and then having to kiss their wives and children goodbye and make the switch from being a civilian to a soldier. That's what happened during every one of Israel's wars. And that's what happened on October 7th. And here, today with us, is one of those ordinary Israelis who at a moment's notice had to drop everything, don his uniform, kiss his wife goodbye, hug his children, tell them he loves them, and then make that switch from being a civilian to a soldier. And to speak to that ordinary Israeli hero, we travel all the way down to the Gaza border.
So I'm sitting here on the Gaza border drinking coffee and eating halva with a man we'll just call Shahak. Now, this area on October 7th was not anywhere near as placid and as pastoral as you see at the moment. And Shahak is here today to tell us a bit about that. Shahak, thank you for speaking with us. Welcome. We want to get straight into it. Tell us, the morning of October 7th, what happened? How did you realize?
Well, it was Simchat Torah. It was a Saturday morning, which means it's a holiday. And we were completely clueless. There was no, we weren't prepared in any way. And I received, I don't remember if it was a phone call or a text from my commander at about 7:30 in the morning, telling me to arrive as fast as I can to the Re'im junction, which is past that hill after that place. And because there was a suspicion for an infiltration.
Suspicion.
So this suspicion was well justified. Now we know. So I packed all my gear. I am one of those who constantly have everything. I don't need to sign everything when I enlist. Because I'm a part of the rapid response team at my local area and the national rapid response team for the border patrol, the tactical unit, what they say. But still, it's not my profession. Like, I'm an electrician, a civilian, and we just train and respond to like critical incidents, like a terrorist attack somewhere or something like that. So there's people all across Israel that are available to react rapidly. That's it. But so that's a funny thing. Actually, I was just about to go, and then my wife told me that we had a plumbing issue at the kitchen, that the drain was clogged. And I called the plumber who lives in the end of my street, asked him to come over and handle it because I was called on reserve. And he told me it's a Saturday morning, it's a holiday, No.
It's gonna cost you.
No, he told me no. I have like visitors, forget about it. And I didn't know how severe everything here was, so I opened it myself. It took me about an hour. And then by 8:30 or so, I left home.
Let's just pause there. You say this is the rapid response team. Now, you are a normal civilian. How, when you know something might be amiss, something might be happening in Israel, you kiss your family goodbye, you say to your wife, your children, guys, I'll see you in a little bit. It must be hard.
It's actually harder than that, because the thing about being a first responder is that when something like this happens, it's not limited to someone else's family. It can also be your own, but nevertheless you have to leave your own family and go protect others. But I didn't know how bad it was, and I just told them like, the drain is open, I gotta go, bye guys, like be nice to mommy, and that's it. And yes, and then it took me about an hour and a half to get to the northern part. Till then, everything was fine, just some alerts, like missiles and stuff like that, but we are used to it.
Right.
But lucky me, I have a big car and I'm generous. So I stopped in Ashkelon and picked up a couple of hitchhikers, that were also called on reserve, 2 younger soldiers. It was their first time on reserve. They were like released from standard duty just a year ago or so. At the beginning of the war, it's like a year and a half ago.
So young, early 20s.
Young, never shot from a moving vehicle, don't know AK, don't know
Never seen combat before.
They seen combat, but nothing like that. They never been to a war. And we had no idea we're going into a war. Only when we passed the Ad Mordechai junction and turned into 34 road, then we started seeing bodies piling at the side of the road.
And this is the first time you realized?
It was like 4 bodies or so, and we stopped and did like whatever, like if you see a dead body, what do? You stop and cover it and something, and like...
Israelis or terrorists?
No, civilians. And so we covered those guys, and then we kept going. And like after a couple 100 meters, someone was firing at the car in front of us. And then we realized it's a war zone. And I told them, guys, we're on enemy territory. Like I told them 1, 2, 3. Like I'm 1, you're 2, you're 3.
So you don't know their names?
No, I don't know their names. They were 2 and 3. And we handled this first one. Up to then, we were not with our combat gear, nothing. They didn't have any. They had no uniform, they had no nothing.
So they're in civilian clothing?
Yeah, I gave them my own, and gear and everything, because I had plenty. And we picked up some more guns, and we just kept going. And at the beginning they were like hanging on to their phones, trying to find something like, what's happening? And I like kicked the phones out of their hands and told them, you're in the news.
Focus.
In the end of the day, you'll see what we were doing here, okay? But
what goes through your head? Does it just automatically
through
kick
my head,
in? Yes.
Through my head goes, breathe. Slowly, breathe. It's like everything inside you tells you to just go into hyperdrive and like press the pedal to the floor and just be out of there. But then your training kicks in and it tells you that you go 60. You go slow.
Why?
Windows open, so no debris will go into your eyes if there's any like shooting or something. And you go slow, so you'll be still effective to what you see, and you don't just drive into an ambush. And it worked. We passed this way. It took us 6 hours to pass through all of these. It's actually their entrance route and the way they got to all the places, and we were not the first to be there. We handled leftovers, like 2 here, 4 there, 3 there, another, and it was unreal. It was like the zombie apocalypse, because I've been through war. My first war was Lebanon in 2006, but I never saw so many dead bodies and so many wrecked cars. It was like just like you see in very, very cheap zombie apocalypse movies, that you tell yourself like this is unreliable. Maybe a better like producer like would have come up with a more reliable script.
Right.
So, but it was true. It was real people in piles. And
Like the terrorists piled these people up.
no, they were waiting in specific locations, and some people were trying to hide behind bodies, some of them behind cars, some of them were still inside the cars. But I think us driving slow was one of the most important parts, because they were shooting at the cars, they were shooting at the people, and I think some of the people died as a result from a car crash.
My goodness.
Or another car hitting them, or just them crashing because they were shot at and maybe got a debris or was injured themselves. But when it all comes together. And so we handled the few that ran away from other forces, because there were forces getting in here since 7:30 by choppers.
Right.
So we were still clueless about what's going on. Every terrorist you meet, you think, okay, that's the last one.
And 2 and 3, how are 2 and 3 doing?
2 and 3 learned AK. They had,
2 and 3.
after like a couple of hours, we became like an oiled machine.
Wow.
Yeah. It's still like very tense. We never spoke a word other than, because you try to be silent all the time, as silent as possible. You want to hear someone charging a weapon, you want to hear a grenade being thrown, like the ping.
So you're still driving, or are you out of the car now?
We every time we handle like a few terrorists, and then we keep going. Then someone's shooting at the car in front of us, or we recognize someone from further away. And in one incident, I was very lucky. Like We recognized a team of 4 terrorists shooting at another force. They were about 450 meters away. I'm a marksman. They say I'm doing okay. So I have the range measurement gear and everything. And they were 450 meters away from us, so I got us a nice position, and I started handling those. And then when I got to the last one, my rifle flew away. And like on my side, I saw to the side of me, like 150 meters away, 2 guys shooting at us. And then we managed to take them out too. But then I took back my gun and I saw the bullet hit like 10 centimeters away from my eye. It hit the scope from the side.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yo.
And the funny thing is, the 7th is a very eventful day.
Yeah.
You can break it down to 1,000 of small incidents. And this is just one of them. And everybody you pass, and every car you pass, and every terrorist you take out, and all of it is a whole story, yeah? But you just finish, they stop firing at you, you move on.
And you don't have the luxury
You
to
keep
stop.
going, you just keep going. And then when I got to Tzomet Re'im, I called my supervisor, my commander.
And this is now 6 hours.
And he tells me, don't get to Re'im Junction, it's too dangerous. We'll meet you in Plugot, in another location. And I told him, yes, it is dangerous. I'm here. He tells me, what? How you got there? You're crazy. I told him, you don't need to get here, so I got here. So I took these 2 guys to another location, to Urim. We said farewell. I gave them everything we collected, and then I moved on. And
Did you ever see them again?
no,
No idea who they are.
I don't. But one of them left a hat of the, I think it was 50 or 51 battalion
Yeah.
in my car. I still have it. Anyway, I hope they're still with us, because I don't know, they later on, these guys were fighting in the northern part of Gaza. We were in charge, my people were in charge of the surrounding part of Gaza, which at the first couple of months was the main issue.
Correct.
We were fighting for the farmers to be able to go back to work, to clear out what was left inside the communities around here.
I want to speak about the surroundings a little bit because you mentioned that before we spoke. But first, Hamas said afterwards that they didn't target civilians, that they only went after military targets. You were there.
This is called taqiyya in Islam. Taqiyya is the commandment for lying to the heretics. Now, if you want to interview a Muslim, you need to be a Muslim on your own in order to receive something resembles the truth, although even if you work for a heretic company, they will justify lying to a Muslim. So it's false, and it's not new that they lie. It's actually the most humane thing they do. I think lying is the best part of Hamas.
I want to get to that too.
It's nice.
But
Lying gives
first-
people hope.
Indeed.
False hope, but still.
I want to speak about the surroundings. It's beautiful. It
is.
It's green. It's late
First
winter.
of all, at
It's
the
just
time it
gorgeous.
wasn't green.
Right.
At the time it was it was still brown and riddled with death.
Tell us about the
But
surroundings.
it took us we had no idea what's going on. Every day we found out more and more communities that were attacked, and just how badly they were attacked, because really no one could imagine it. Even us experiencing it couldn't imagine the scale of it. And even when we got the scale, we didn't get how deep it was. And only when we got to speak to civilians who survived and witnessed, and when we got to, in the next following days, we were in many communities inside the communities, and it was unreal. We were sure that what we met on the roads was the main thing. So no, it was the sidekick.
You want to tell us about the communities?
So, as you mentioned, it's a beautiful area. And this area is combined of mostly farmers. Beautiful people,
Yeah.
inside and out. And they build beautiful communities. Kibbutzim, like social communities. And people working in their land. There's right over this hill, there's some of the best oranges you'll ever have. And these communities were, it's not a military target in any way. It's just civilians in the very simple houses many times. Kibbutzim, like social communities, it's a very minimalistic way of living. They have a dining room for everyone to eat together, so they don't have kitchens. And this is one of the reasons why they were hit so bad, because it's like small. If in normal community these days we have villas, then you have like on 100 meters, you'll have 4 villas. It's 4 families. It's like maximum of like 20 people, 25 people.
Yeah.
So in a kibbutz, you can have 100 meters with like 30 houses, because it's combined, like just boxes and boxes and boxes, like in Kfar Aza.
Right.
The young generation in Kfar Aza. The carnage per meter over there was unreal. It was, and because it was so easy for them to slaughter everyone, they like put the extra effort in like doing it more
Gleefully.
giving it like an added value, because they just don't, they're indifferent to death, to killing, whatever.
The production of this investigative series is made possible by the generous donations of Christians from around the world. You can also make a difference by supporting this initiative. We want you to share, to give, and be a voice so that we can produce more series like this. The truth about what is happening here in Israel and around the world must be told, and it must go out. Please click on the link to donate.
We need to understand what happened here in order to understand what happened here. Like really, why they did it. You cannot train someone to do what they did to us. And it's not us as Jews, it's us as non-Muslims, as heretics. So because we were targeted, because we were not them, regardless of who we are, it is simply a genocide of all of the non-Muslims. In this case, Jews, Christians, Muslims, and Hindu and some Thai. Yeah. But in general, they just killed everyone. But how do you know it's a religious-based genocide? Because religion is based on guidelines of holy and unholy. And in order to justify or in order to properly execute a religious genocide, then you need to unholy your victim. Or it just gives it an added value if you unholy your victim. And you asked if they focused on military targets. So about 10% of them focused on military targets at the first wave, just in order for the military targets not to be able to respond for the civilian targets being hit. But it all happened simultaneously. So it's not just that they targeted civilian targets, it's the type of civilian targets. Because we as modern or Western or civil or enlightened society have guidelines. We don't kill women, we don't kill children. Naturally, there's collateral damage. It's not what we're talking about. We would never deliberately execute women and children and helpless people, regardless of their gender or nationality or religion. It's just we only use mortal force on those who try to kill us.
Correct.
And even if they are an armed man, as soon as you disarm them, that's it. It's not a target anymore.
Correct.
For them, it's exactly the opposite. Why? Their goal as a terror organization is to spread terror. Now, if you kill a soldier, then it's sad.
But it's war.
But then you forget about it because he was a soldier, he died. Okay, that's a part of the job. It is. Now, if you kill a civilian man, then it's sad for a little bit longer. But then, okay, he's a man. But if you kill a wife, okay, this is something else. This sticks. And if you kill a kid, this is even better for terrorists. But the best is a baby. Because a baby, first of all, is very easy to kill.
Right.
And then it has this effect on the parents that is very successful for terrorists. They put on a whole show in people's houses of how creatively they kill their babies while the parents watch, and then they rape the mother, and then they kill the mother, and then they rape the body, and then they kill the father.
And you know this for a fact because you have seen it.
It
is not something that you heard.
Yes.
You have seen this.
I wish I didn't.
Yes.
I wish I didn't. And what was the most disturbing part about it? It's... I just don't get how can someone hold someone else's baby, let's say not young people, let's say, this is why, even in Africa you had the child soldiers and everything, because they're most effective because they have no life experience.
Right.
But over here, the commanders, the team leaders of Hamas special forces, the first wave, they were well trained, they were like they were trained in Iran. You saw it in the way they operated. Like previous Hamas operatives never flank you. They didn't know like military moves. They were inaccurate in the way they handled guns.
And this
But
is
these
not
guys
something
they knew Hebrew. They wrote in Hebrew. They left us messages. You ran out of time. You fell for it. Okay?
So they taunted.
Yes. They learned from the best. From Hezbollah, from Iran. Nasrallah in Lebanon is famous for his psychological added value to just killing you. He don't just kill you. He kill you in a...
Added twist.
Yes. For
the
example,
people to
if you
come
take
after.
Lebanon in 2006, every gun they used to kidnap the soldiers was made in Israel.
Oh, just as a little present.
Nice touch.
So let's get back. You said they were at. What bothered you most about this? The people had life experience.
They executed, let's say, Hasrei Yesha, helpless, like babies. And what bothered me the most was the babies, because I'm a father of 3. My youngest is almost 2 now. Then she was a year and a half old. And how do you hold a baby in your hand and see no resemblance to your own babies?
Exactly.
How do they get so detached from?
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe something's wrong with us that we like
not.
look at them as human beings. But at the beginning, people came to me and told me they are monsters. And I told them I wish they were. The terrible part is they are just like us.
What happened?
They are human beings.
What happened?
Now, can you train someone to be this cruel? Can you train someone to be so hatred? You cannot. I train people. Like, if you can get them into a satisfying level of professionality, then it's an accomplishment. You cannot train someone to do this, to be so creative in how they kill people. Like there's some things I was just there, but they told me when they got into the room, and I told them I don't need to see. Like the baby in the microwave in Kfar Aza. And others I did saw, but I wish I didn't. But everybody talk about them decapitating babies.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the worst part.
So that's true?
Decapitation, yeah, but decapitation takes...
Effort.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, at least you give it some attention.
Right.
But when you find a baby with just the mark of a soul on his hand, like they just stomped on him, or just throw him on a wall in other cases. It's so, like, how indifferent you need to be to this in order to like do it so like carelessly. It's like, I don't know, just... And then there's no winning this.
No.
Okay, so you kill them. And then you feel like a sucker that you killed them because they don't deserve dying so easily.
I want to ask you a question.
We didn't know what they did when we met them at the road. I don't even know if it was the same people. But they... I don't know, how do you punish for this? You punish for this by surviving.
Right. Life.
And I met a girl. I met many people, but one girl specifically. Both her parents and her young brother were murdered and burned, and everything was burned. And we spoke, and she told me, like, they took everything from me. And I told her, no, they took everything you had. But the one thing they didn't is your future. And you have one. All of these other people, they don't have a future. They are dead. But you have yours, and you use it properly.
Make a difference. Live.
Make it count.
I have a question. We spoke about what made them the way they are. Many people around the world says it's suffering. If you abuse a dog for long enough and that dog turns around and bites you, who's to blame?
Absolutely. But this dog doesn't turn around and bite you because we were not the one, like, they were not suffering because of us. In order to understand this situation, first you need to understand who are the victims. So yes, on the 7th, we were the victims. That's correct. But for the past, 23 years, I think, something like that, the victims, first there were Fatah personnel in Gaza. You can see on YouTube how creative Hamas was by executing them. I think it was even before they were elected. Naturally, these elections are bogus because you need to have a choice in order to elect someone. But never mind that. So Hamas victims are the Gazans. Not just the Gazans, they also spread to the West Bank now, and they're like cancer. But Hamas basically is business.
Explain that.
It's they have a few people in power. They're not of the military branch. They're just of the having fun branch. And then there's the whole organization behind it, collecting funds by spreading terror, by being against, now it's Israel, but it's actually everything. It's not just Israel. It's all part of an Islamic State concept led by Iran, and they serve a purpose. You will never hear, you will never see in the newspaper that there was an Iranian terrorist, because they're royalty. But Arabs are their disposable cups. So they use them for these conflicts, just to spread their word, to spread their concept, to train the people. And it's all led by Iran, but it's fought by disposable Arabs. Now, these people are completely careless to their own population, in a disturbing way, really. And I don't know if it's something cultural, that they have no value for human life, or it's just a local issue.
Can you give me a practical example?
Many, but first of all, I want for people to understand the suffering we talk about. What is this suffering? Why do they suffer? Earlier today we were in Kfar Aza and Netiv Asara and all the people living here around. You always hear the same stories about how 20 years ago they used to go for hummus in Gaza and go for the market in Gaza, and Gaza was open, it was a nice place, there were like coexistence and everything. And then what happened 20 years ago? Hamas. Now, when there's a free market, then everybody enjoys it. But it's harder to control people when they have economical interests in mind. But when you create it as a closed society like that, when no one comes in and no one goes out, and they did it just by attacking us. So we had no choice by closing them. There's a reason why the Egyptians didn't want anything to do with Gaza. You know, Israel and Egypt were fighting between them who will take Gaza.
I remember.
Because no one wanted Gaza. No, you take it. No, you take it. Like, whenever someone was fighting for not having something.
So Egypt wanted Sinai?
Egypt
wanted
didn't
Sinai,
yeah, but
not Gaza.
So they're suffering from Hamas rule. It's not rule because it's oppression. They are actually hostages by Hamas, the Gazans. They have no say, they cannot elect, they have no rights. And it's all for a reason, because when you have a very, very weak population, they have no independence, they cannot choose their schools, they cannot choose anything. Then they are completely dependent on your systems. So a construction worker gets about 20 shekels a day. That's enough for half a pack of smokes.
That's nothing.
Okay? And there's sewage in the streets. And like, you don't even talk about education or higher education, or because if you make 20 shekels a day, then you put your kids to work, naturally. And then they get the extra activities from Hamas, scouts. Yeah. Where you learn how to kidnap and torture Israelis, which is like the best training. It's like the best part of summer for them. Like in kindergarten, they put on shows as like they kidnap soldiers, and it's seriously. So this is how we're getting to.
Yes. How absolute is that control?
It's absolute.
Do I have a free say? Can I speak out, or?
You as a woman.
Well, me as
I wouldn't go so
civilian.
far as like a woman speaking, but if you're like a higher up civilian, a man, which is related to Hamas, then you can speak, but only supporting their cause.
And if there's a speaking against?
They don't.
But how is the rest of the world not speaking out? How's the rest of the Arab world not speaking out about this, about Hamas?
Because speaking against Hamas means speaking against who handles Hamas. And this is not fun. You don't want to be the enemy of these people. But they do actually. Saudi Arabia speaks openly against this, against Iran, against Muslims holding Jerusalem, about all of that. It is open, but it doesn't get the news coverage.
Interesting.
Because hating Jews is like a national sport for so many nations. We're just so easy to hate. You know, we're successful, even when we shouldn't be. You give us a desert, we make it flourish. Like, how annoying is that? Like, what do you need to die? Like, how long can we try to annihilate you and you still persist? Like, why? What more can we develop special mechanisms to kill you, and still you continue
To thrive.
to thrive? And like, how annoying is that?
Super annoying.
Yes, it's like an itch, you know? So I think it's time we finish apologizing for us surviving the Holocaust. And yes, we do need a piece of land to call home. And it's the best place in the world for Muslims and everyone else. And ask any Muslim what is his dream country, and he'll tell you Israel.
Wow.
Yes, we have the happiest Muslims around. And you can see the reaction to this happening from the Israeli Muslim population.
Correct. That's
They
true.
were deeply embarrassed by it, by any small resemblance they might have to it. And they denounce it for a reason,
That's correct.
because these deeds are not Muslim acts. They're done like in the name of the Muslim nation, but it's not Muslim. It actually contradicts entirely the foundations of Muslim religion and any other religion.
I want to speak about the practical example of the boys that you told me about in Gaza through your sniper.
So during Tzuk Eitan,
2014.
10 years ago. Yeah. So I was on a mission and in Gaza, and I was just in a position on a rooftop, and saw a Hamas operative walking down the street. So I asked for permission to take him out, and told me he didn't fire at you, so you don't fire at him. Okay, and then there was like a group of kids, about I think 5 or 7 kids playing. Like there's the houses, and there's like a mutual area between the houses. And this guy was just picking them one by one, and they don't even run away. He just picks them and hangs them from the back of their shirt on the fences, like the bars of the windows, and they just choke on their shirts. And you see the parents in the windows, and they see the Hamas guy, and they see their kids being murdered.
Executed.
Executed, actually, yeah. Not murdered, because I don't know if he knew them. So being executed for nothing, and again, in a very careless way. And then I was asking again for a permission to terminate him. And then again, I didn't receive it. And then it was my last, I didn't go out for a mission again, because I said, I will not stand aside while something like this is happening. And you can understand, this obviously not a protector, this is not a freedom fighter, he doesn't protect his people. He feeds on his people, and the ridiculous or the shocking or the terrible thing about it is why he did it. And a few minutes afterwards, when he finished his cigarette, And then he just took them down and threw them away, kicked them around a bit so they would look funny. And then he took a picture and went away. And then it was one of the pictures that you see in the newspaper about how Israeli forces killed kids in Gaza.
So propaganda. He killed the children for propaganda to
But
blame
that's
Israel.
ridiculous. There's so many pictures of dead kids around the globe from like Arab conflicts. I think Syria produced enough pictures for everyone not needing to kill their own kids. But this is just how careless they are with human life.
How cruel.
And we call it their own. They don't call it their own, okay? They call it like, it's just nobody's, it's not. And you can see it also in the stream of funds and everything. We recovered like many kilometers of underground tunneling used for, it's not military purposes, because military says that you protect someone. You're fighting for someone. This is not a military, it's a force fighting for himself. Okay? They don't protect anyone.
Right.
So, for Hamas purposes, which is estimated in billions of dollars, while like 20 meters above them, there's a civilian population without even running water or a sewage system, not to talk about like electricity and internet. Okay, they're in the sewage stage. Like, let's have a proper sewage. And they were attacking us with donations they received to encourage motorsport in Gaza. They were building the tunnels in donations they received to rebuild Gaza after we destroyed it. But no. And so they misuse everything when the only thing they don't care about is their own people. And we walked through the northern part of Gaza, the Hamas area. You see beautiful villas with swimming pools, all the latest whatever. Yeah?
Yeah.
You would think you're in Switzerland, only with better weather and a beach. But then you keep going to the civilian part of Gaza, and it's just
Nothing.
the worst refugee camp imaginable. How cruel is that?
So you subject your people to that so that they will continue hating.
But keeping people poor and unaware makes them very easy to manipulate. I don't know if these numbers are accurate, like on the shekel, but I know that there was a point that they were paying 700 shekels for a suicide bomber.
That's nothing.
For them, think about it. It's like 20 shekels a day. It's like, let's say 100 shekels a week. Then it's almost 2 months worth of pay in just one bombing.
But it's death.
It's proportion, but death is meaningless because if you have no future, there's no life for you. So what they told them, if you die killing a Jew or an Israeli, never mind, then your family's future is promised.
Secure.
Is promised. So all of a sudden you have a future. So it's not about the 700 shekels.
You gave your family a future.
By killing Jews, or just by blowing yourself up, even if you didn't kill anyone. And you get 700 shekels extra.
I have one final
It's
question for
ridiculous.
you. What is Hamas's end goal? A state? Freedom? Liberation?
I think Hamas' end goal is the first of the month when they get their salary from Iran. I don't think they really have. They don't have a nation, so they cannot have a national goal. They're not really committed to anything besides like death. And you cannot build death. You can just kill other living things. So they're just a tool servicing someone else.
Just the cat and fodder.
They are the front soldiers of Iran fighting for something they don't believe in. There was a nice thing the Israeli Ministry of Defense did one time. There was a guy calling, I think it was Hania, on the phone.
Yes. Who's Hania? Explain.
And Hania was the head of Hamas, and told him he was speaking from the guys who are in charge of the suicide bombers in Hamas. Told him like, congratulations, your son was chosen to become a suicide bomber, and like Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And he started swearing at him, like, you send your own kid, you can forget about it, I'm not sending my own kid. And
This is horrible. This breaks my heart.
and then they published it to the Muslim world for them to understand who their leaders are. All of this, like they have like values, and you know, to free Jerusalem. Jerusalem has nothing to do with the Muslim world, and the only thing that's occupied in Israel is Gaza. It's occupied by
Hamas.
By Hamas. And now what we're doing is actually trying to liberate Gaza from Hamas oppression. But the world, I think, is used to supporting the underdog, assuming they are the freedom fighters.
Right.
But first of all, we are not big.
No.
We might get a lot of attention, but we're actually a tiny, tiny nation.
Country.
But these guys, funny thing, when we got into the northern part of Gaza, they refused to evacuate. About
The civilians or
200,000
Hamas?
civilians. No, Hamas wouldn't let the civilians evacuate all along, all through the border, all along the Gaza. But up north in Gaza, 200,000 Gazans refused to evacuate because they were hoping that Israel would conquer Gaza. So they were disappointed. First of all, they refused to go. They rather stay under us in a war zone than under Hamas. And then when we didn't move the border, then they were disappointed, and we were supplying them all along, these guys. And Hamas was trying to steal their supplies. This humanitarian aid,
Yes.
it's not really humanitarian aid if you don't make sure it goes only to civilians.
Indeed.
It's actually Hamas aid. I think there's a very deep misunderstanding about what's going on. Hamas has everything. They have riches beyond your wildest dreams. And this completely incomprehensive difference in our eyes between them and the population, like the civilians. But let's just remember that we were raped and murdered by Hamas volunteers.
Indeed.
Civilians. They're volunteers. But I think the world, if to wrap it up, I think once we accomplish freeing Gaza from Hamas tyranny, it will be a challenge for the world how to teach liberty, how to teach choice to these people. They never had one.
Right.
I can tell you, you should never give them a gun. Because the way we're raised, like if you hand a gun to an Israeli, what he's thinking? He thinks, I'm protecting who's behind me. Right?
Right.
But if you give a gun to a Gazan, he thinks, I rule those behind me.
Ah. So the next Hamas.
So they become a tyrant in a second. Because this is what they're taught. That the one with the gun rules. So if it took Hamas 20 years to build, it will take another 20 years to re-educate the people, to give them actual knowledge. Yes, there's no such thing as Palestinians. It doesn't exist. It never existed. You can change the future, but not the past. So if you want to lie about the past, at least you need to represent actual events, but you cannot reinvent something that was never there. So yeah.
Shahak, thank you. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for the coffee. Thank you for the halva.
Thank you for your time.
I know this was probably not the easiest interview to listen to. We want to thank you. Thank you for sticking through this. Thank you for listening.
I've heard it said that Israel's army behaves differently for the express fact that they are a civilian army. They aren't career soldiers. They didn't choose this. They didn't choose to be soldiers. They didn't sign up for it. And given the choice, they would much rather be somewhere else. They would much rather be with their wives or their children. But Israel and Israelis are not given that choice. They don't have that luxury. Every Israeli yearns for peace, strives for peace. Every father comes back from war hoping, praying that his son, his daughter will never know the feel of a uniform on his skin and never know the kick of a rifle against his shoulder. But again, Israel and Israelis, they've never been given that choice. They've never had that luxury. Which is why we continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.